Then these righteous ones will reply, Lord, when did we ever see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink, or a stranger and show you hospitality, or naked and give you clothing? When did we ever see you sick or in prison and visit you? And the king will say, I tell you the truth. When you did it to one of the least of these, of my brothers and sisters, you were doing it to me. So this morning, I am just basically going to show you a little bit about my trip to Haiti. I went on, it was in the end of April. And I got to be careful because I did this at a friend of mine's church a few weeks back, and I went on for about an hour. So just, I see a few wide eyes here, but don't worry, I'm gonna cut her back a bit too. So, okay, so perfect, we're already up and running. And I've never worked this before. I probably should have done a trial run. So this is just, I thought I'd start off by showing you some scenery of Haiti. Beautiful, beautiful place. There's lots of mountains, lots of, well, it's the same islands, the Dominican Republic. People go there a lot for vacation and whatnot. Very beautiful, tropical. With Haiti, though, their main source of heating is through coal, so there's a lot of deforestation there. So a lot of it's very barren, and there's not like grass. It's hard to grow things. So, okay. Oh, here we are. Perfect. Excellent. All right. I feel your struggle, Ferry. So this is the group I went down with. That's obviously me on your left. Or my left too, I guess it would be reversed. And in the middle there in the blue, that's Mark. He'll be coming up here in a minute to talk a little bit more about World Vision. And that's it for people you're probably going to recognize today. Behind us, though, this is a school. And here's a better picture of it. So it keeps the rain off you. That's pretty good, I guess. But that's what they have down there. So until World Vision showed up. And this is their new school. This was actually donated by one fella, is that correct? In memory of his wife. There's probably 7 classrooms in there. Nothing fancy on the inside. There's a chalkboard, some wooden chairs. That's it. But it's nice. It gives them a place to go. They can separate the kids. It's just very wonderful. And we were greeted by the kids from the school when we got there, and they actually sang for us. Just beautiful, beautiful children. And they're very, very thankful for this. Just more of them. So this here, I won't dive into a lot of this right now. I'll be talking about this more. It's called the WASH Project. I'll leave it at that. Build some suspense. So this is, obviously, running water is an issue down there. On average, this isn't just Haiti on itself. This is just like third world countries in general. But on average, they have a 6-kilometer walk to get water. So that's the thing. In the morning, someone goes, gets water, bring it back. So with World Vision, they were able to create these taps. And part of the WASH project is just about hygiene. Cholera, make sure I'm going to keep cueing it on you, Mark. Cholera is just a disease, just germ down there, but it's largely preventable just by good hygiene. But a lot of people on the countryside just don't know that you need to wash your hands after you do something. So it's really the neat thing about this is the kids are learning all this, proper hand washing techniques, and then they bring it home to their parents. And their parents don't know either, so they can educate their parents, and it grows in the community like that. Gross picture, but it's important to put a point in here. This is just the outhouse out back of the church, or the school, and they have running water there now at the school, but obviously they still don't have plumbing, and not electricity either. So they're a lot higher than where they were, but they certainly have a ways to go before they could be comfortable like us. This here is the Mothers Club. Another fantastic thing. The thing I really love is they have a real vision when they do this. They teach a group, but then that group is to teach others, and it's to spread. So World Vision came in and selected a few kind of mothers that were leaders, willing to take charge, and then taught them proper nutrition, proper ways to keep an eye on your children, make sure they're growing in size, like measuring their arms and waist, once a month, make sure they're growing properly, and then these mothers teach other mothers, and those mothers go back to their community and teach other mothers, and it spreads. And part of helping poverty is just good education. It's very important. Thank you. One button. It's the same button. So this is just another shot of the Mothers Group. I don't know how well you can see the picture with the eating. It's a bean rice mixture. So you get your protein, you get your carbs. Obviously, what they can grow there, what they have available to purchase is limited. So this little cutie here, she's just soaking in the attention. This one. So one of the projects how I got into doing some work with World Vision was through Freddie Link. I don't know if some of you have probably heard that name. It was at Altogether Worship was the first time I heard about them. I went with a few people from the church, and Freddie Link was there with World Vision, and they were just talking about this, and they had child sponsorship packages available. I had always wanted to do it. You see the commercials on TV, and it's heartbreaking. One concern I always had was, okay, but where does my money go? I want to make sure I'm giving to a reputable organization. And Mandy Eastwood was with me at the time, and she said that World Vision is one. She said, I've looked into it. If you're thinking about doing this, go for this. So I did. I sponsored a child then. And that was about 3 years ago, roughly. And I also started volunteering with Freddie Link. Now, by volunteering, I mean they had booths at Altogether Worship, so I was there the last couple of years. Also at the Frex, they did different stuff like that. So I just helped out manpower-wise. But they go down every year to Haiti just to visit. You get a chance to see your sponsored children stuff, which is just phenomenal. So I had the opportunity to do it this year. It was just financially feasible, and I was like, yeah, I'd like to do that. I'd like to see that. But it was nothing like I expected. It completely just blew me out of the water. This girl here, not this girl here. I don't be fibbing in church, but a girl like her was. She had gotten. That we have a goat project, so you can buy a goat. It costs us about $100 here. To them, a goat, she was able to finish her house. She was able to build a house for selling a goat. Like that just blows my mind. Now, I guess, mind you, the house is not like our houses, but it has a metal roof. It should last her. She can raise her kids in there. They can be safe. But that's just the power of a goat. Like, you have a house now. It's just incredible. So we had a chance to go see a few different people. This boy here, he was about he was 18, I believe. You actually see that their goat just had babies the night before, which were adorable. He was a real go-getter, this one. His plan is to go on and become a doctor. And after talking with him, not a doubt in my mind that that's what he's going to do. It's just phenomenal. He's from the countryside, so that's a very big thing for them. A lot of times you get you get trapped with no education, and it's hard to move forward. So this is a really, really neat building. It's called the Center of Hope. It's a community center, mostly for the youth, but you can use it for like a town hall, for meetings. Should explain this maybe a little better. With World Vision, they take a group of communities, 4 or 5, or maybe more, maybe less, just depending on population, and then they call that an area development project. So that project, they try to centralize things. So this particular community center is centralized within those communities, so that way everyone has the same distance to walk, it's fair, and more people can use it. It's really neat though, it's going to be basically self-sustainable. I believe they're going to get some solar panels. They also, just the angle of the roof is to collect rainwater, because they only have certain rainy seasons. So there'll be a long stretch of months where there won't be any rain, and they need to collect that water to use it to grow food. So they want to grow food so that they can feed the children while they're there. And they're actually going to have a garden on the roof too, which is really neat. So anyway, here's the inside of it. It's really nice. There's actually a computer room in the back. There's another room this way for you guys in front of it as well. And the design too is meant to keep it cool because it's hot down there. It was about 30 every day we were down there, and that was at the end of April, so it's only going to get hotter. So this design, there's breeze can come in through and cool it. Now, while we were there, the youth have leaders within them, and they put on a play for us. Now, there was a language barrier, and we had a translator there who was doing her best to keep up. It's difficult. But this one boy here with the Nike hat, you didn't have to know what he was saying. He was just hilarious. He was stealing the show. But it had its funny parts, but it was a serious play. It was about just child trafficking, child abuse, and whatnot. So it's an educational play for the younger kids to know that these things aren't right and keep an eye out for them, basically. And the youth put this all on for us. They had a presentation for us as well before this, and the organization they put in there was just fantastic. This is the soccer field out back of it. It's dirt. There's no, like I said, there's no grass. So okay, so what is this? This is an airport. It frightens me. We didn't use this one, thankfully. This is my first time flying too, so I'm already a little shaky, and then we drive by this, but you can tell a little closer here, like it's rocky, it's rough, but people hang out there. It's just an open area, so people hang out there a lot. So the plane actually has to come and fly down first, low, so people know to clear. Circles around, then it lands. There's no lights, no nothing. So that was in Hinch where we stayed. Luckily, we drove from Port-au-Prince and we flew into Port-au-Prince. So like I said, we had the opportunity to meet our sponsored children. There was 4 of us that went down, not including myself or Mark, who had sponsored children. So they had a chance to meet theirs. This is Bernie. He actually runs Freddie Link. So he has a few kids he sponsors. This was just a couple of them. So it was fantastic. It was just neat to to be able to put a face to it, and they're just so thankful and just so happy. It's just really beautiful. I didn't get a chance to meet mine. She ran away. She had a little bit of a feud with her father. As it turns out, it was nothing serious. She's 14, 15, so it was just something like that. So it was a little disappointing. The next day, we were to go to World Vision home office to meet the CEO, I guess, of World Vision Haiti. So we're getting ready to do that. So Mark was just giving us the rundown for the morning. He said, we're going to do that. And he said, but first we have to stop off at one of the field offices and meet Matt's sponsor child. So this is how she greeted me. I actually had to put a foot back because I was not expecting it. But yeah, and it was phenomenal. The day we were there when I was supposed to meet her, and they said that she ran away. They said that they were going to do their best to find her. And time came and gone, and we still hadn't heard much. So I wasn't overly, I was just like, all right, I'm not going to meet her. Like, just, don't get your hopes up type thing. So I was like, I grabbed one of the guys who was with them most of the time, and I said, can I take my picture with you? That way we can give it to her, so at least she knows what I look like. I already know what she looks like, so it'd be something for her anyway. So they're like, all right, we'll do that, but that's plan Z. So they actually worked through the night, and this was on a Saturday night? Sunday night. Okay, so they don't normally work this hour. They found her father and brought him back to the hotel. It was like after 9 o'clock at night, and then he just was explaining what happened. So I got to meet him as a consolation prize, I was thinking. And then, and that's the last I'd heard of it. He said that she had been at her cousins, and they went to the cousins, and she wasn't there. But it's a lot of walking, so as it turns out, must have happened. She was just walking probably home, and no phone, so you can't contact her. But anyway, they worked through the night, and they found her. And this was on a Sunday, and they made it happen. They're very into transparency, and just wanted. I came all the way from Canada. And this is obviously a big part of the trip is meeting the sponsor child, so they wanted to make that happen. So here's just another picture of her, so you can see what she looks like. Terrible picture of me, but I put this one up because it was the best one of her, so I was like, all right, I'll set my pride aside here. So yeah, she's just gorgeous, like just beautiful. She's just very happy. She sang for me, and she was a little ham too. She was singing a couple songs, and then we had to go. I believe we were leaving that day. No, we were going back, getting ready to leave. And she's like, one more song. And then the translator said, okay, all right, do it. This is it, though. This is it, right? So she picked a long song. And I don't understand the words, but I could hear her repeating it, so I'm pretty sure she just kept on repeating verses. But yeah, she was really cute. So this was the church. Later that day, must have been a little hazy, the details. It was interesting because the pastor was, doing different announcements and opened in prayer, and he said, I'd like to ask for the choir to come up, and half the church walks up. This is only half the stage, so there's that many people on the other side of the stage as well, and it's literally half the church just up there singing, and then you can see the people who are on this side are very animated, clapping, singing, praising. It was a wonderful experience. It was really neat. This here is just a river. Nothing special other than you can kind of see people in there in the distance. This is where a lot of people come to bathe, to clean their clothes, to clean things. So just kind of gathering a spot to do that. So it was kind of hard to see, actually. This is Port-au-Prince. We're on a mountain looking down on it, just to show you. A third of the population live in Port-au-Prince, so this is the capital city, the rich part of Haiti. There certainly is money there, but it's not distributed very evenly. The government is not the best down there, we'll say that. They do have power in here, but how it was explained to me by someone who lives in Port-au-Prince is they have power just as much as they don't have power. Unless you're on the grid that a politician lives on, then you will have power. So it's very populated. You'll see the streets. There's no stop signs, no traffic lights. It's just go or you will stay there all day. It's just very busy, very hectic. You see people along the streets trying to sell things, coming up to your car trying to get you to buy stuff. It's even though this is the capital city, poverty is really real here too. And you'll see there's no garbage pickup system really in place. You just see someone will throw garbage here, and then someone else will throw garbage, and there'll be a pile of garbage. And then eventually they'll come along, they'll burn it, they'll pick up a shovel, throw it in the back of a truck. So it's just it's not very well maintained. What time is it now? Okay, I should probably wrap this up actually. This isn't overly important to my presentation. I just had this in case I really ran quick on my other ones. So I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to ask Mark to come up here. He's from World Vision. He was on the trip with us. Very, very fantastic gentleman. A pleasure to meet him. Come on up, I guess. Any one of those mics will work for you. Yeah.
I should probably just ask you to come and hold the remote and help me now before I embarrass myself. Thanks, Matt. That gave us a great picture of the trip to Haiti. I just want to kind of wrap this up and bring it to a conclusion. Happy Father's Day, by the way, to everybody. And thank you, Pastor, for allowing us to take some time this morning. All across Canada in the last 3 years, we've had churches engaging with us as World Vision around a common purpose, and that is to help transform a community living in poverty through child sponsorship. And we can just pause that for a second if you don't mind, Josiah, thanks. And so we're up to over 100 churches now across the country that are saying, hey, we want to make a intentional focus on this community by whatever means possible to see transformation occur. And so this morning, that's what we're able to do. And Matt saw firsthand what it is World Vision is about. And it's exciting. I just want to read a verse to you, a couple verses actually in Matthew 14, just to bring this home and give some final words to this. In Matthew 14, many of you know this story. And if you don't, it's a great one. It starts in verse 15. It says, as evening approached, the disciples came to Jesus and they said, this is a remote place and it's getting very late. Send the crowds away so they can go to the villages and buy themselves some food. And Jesus replied, they don't need to go away. You give them something to eat. We only have 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, he answered. And Jesus says, bring them here to me. And he directed the people to sit down on the grass, and taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks, and he broke the loaves, and then he gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the people. They all ate and were satisfied, and the disciples picked up 12 basketfuls of broken pieces that were leftovers. There ain't nothing like leftovers, is there? The number of those who were ate was about 5,000 people. How many of you know fish and chips usually doesn't go that far? But on this day, Jesus provided. You know, that story resonates with me because the disciples, on seeing the crowd, often their reaction, in this story was, we're way over here. It's getting late. Just send them away. Let them fend for themselves. In other words, we don't have the time. We can't. We don't have enough, frankly. These guys were Christ followers, were they not? They were in the inner circle with Jesus. They were his disciples. But life had taken over, and somehow they lost track of what really mattered to Jesus. You know what matters to Jesus? It's not a trick question. People. People matter to Jesus. The people in the supermarket, your neighbors, the coworkers that you wish weren't your coworkers, The people ahead of you in the lineup at Tim Hortons that are buying 3 bagels and holding the line up. People matter to Jesus. Jesus loves them. And oftentimes when the need looks great, Matt was showing all these pictures and the poverty, and I'm telling you, I've traveled in many, many countries all over the world, and all of my travels, not all-inclusive resorts. They are places where you can't brush your teeth with the running water. You can't eat the vegetables. It's just not safe to do so. And oftentimes when I see that need and see poverty, it looks so overwhelming that our response can oftentimes be the same as the disciples. It's over there. How can we stop it? How can we take care of them? We've all seen the images on TV, haven't we? The malnourished children, the bloated bellies, the flies, the refugees fleeing for their lives with nothing. We've seen those images. Maybe you've heard the statistics, 1 in 7 not having access to clean water. I don't know about you, but I've used a lot of water already today, and I've hardly been up very long. From flushing the toilets to brushing your teeth to brewing your coffee to you name it. And we hear these statistics and families forced to keep their children out of school because they can't afford it. But back in that story in Matthew 14, I'm struck by the response Jesus had to his disciples when he said this: there's no need to dismiss them. You feed them. And so, they bring what they have. 5 loaves and 2 fish. Doesn't seem like a lot for a crowd this size, does it? But it was significant. Sometimes in my role with World Vision, and no doubt your daily lives, whether it be a neighbor down the street going through a tough time or what we see in our cities here in Canada, it sometimes feels like we don't quite have enough. I want to propose this thought to you this morning as we get ready to wrap up. Perhaps we mistakenly see the need in light of our own limitations and not in the light of the power of God. You see, when you bring what you have, whatever that might be, maybe it's like Matt read in the earlier scriptures, a cup of cold water. When you bring what you have and give it to the Lord, He will do what He does. And what He does is always miraculous. The encounter with Jesus was amazing. This jumped out to me one day reading this story, and I just highlighted it. How many leftovers did they collect? Somebody said it, 12. How many disciples are there? Now that might not seem significant to you, but when I read this story, and I've read it a lot, I'm a good church boy, grew up in the church my whole life, heard this story, had the felt boards, Moses, and then you put a different color robe on him, he's now Abraham. I'm talking about if you grew up in the 80s, I'm talking about. 12 baskets left over. What that says to me is this: Jesus was making a very intentional point. If you will look after the least of these, I'm going to take care of you. Each of these guys went home with a basket full of food. Amazing. And here's what that tells me is not only does the multitude matter to God, but the individual matters to God. Not only do the children in Haiti that we and you as a church and pastor are partnering with, not only do they matter to God, but you matter to God. And when we will bring what we have and say, you know what, Lord, it's not a lot, but I care for the least of these, and maybe I can sponsor a child, and maybe I and our family can do that. If we bring that to God, a miracle takes place. I can remember the first time I saw poverty up close in 2010. I was on a trip to Ecuador, and I visited a daycare on this one afternoon, and we danced and we sang and we hung out with these kids. Here's one of the pictures. This little guy loved the camera. If he knew what a selfie was, he'd be all over it. And he just constantly waved. And I was struck by, in this moment, what little they had. Particularly as we entered the daycare, I noticed their playground. There's one more picture here of the playground at this preschool, at this daycare. And if you can see this, and moms and dads, you've dropped your kids off at elementary, you've dropped them off at preschool, no doubt their playground looked a little better than this. See, for me in this moment, I was faced with that contrast of my life back in Canada and what I was witnessing here. And it's a tension that I was trying to manage between looking and thinking of my daughter, for instance, who at that time was just beginning elementary, and a few years in, and I realized the daycare that she came out of and what they had access to versus what I was seeing here. And I remember I left the room after we danced and sang with these kids and hung out. And I remember I left the room and I had a video camera and I was doing a selfie video. I'm very ashamed to admit this because I'm not a big fan of the selfie. But I knew I had to capture this moment because this was one of those God moments in my life that I knew was shifting the course of even what I was called to do and how I was to engage with what I was seeing. And I remember I start crying, and I cry ugly. You know, like, it's not pretty when this dude cries. It's like, you know, really snotty and gross. And so I'm holding this camera, and I'm trying to capture, because of this contrast of what I knew to be my life back in Canada, my little girl's preschool that she had come out of and now in elementary school, and what I was seeing here. And I was thinking, it's just not fair. My kids, and they're with me today, and my wife, they won the birth lottery, as did your kids. They had nothing to do with it. They were just born in Canada. They didn't pick that, by the way. You know that. They just, hi, Mom, I'm here. And they have access to this. These children, they were born in a place of poverty. And I remember I was struck by that, and then I continued on, and I walked down the road, and two young moms were doing their laundry in the ditch, the water in the ditch, all laid out. Now, you know when the laundry piles up and we start to grumble, right? It's like, really? You say to your teenager, is that really dirty? Or was it just on your floor and you forgot to pee? All the parents, don't look at them, don't point at them, but you know it's true. We all do it. But here's two moms in the ditch washing their clothes, and I just thought to myself, I never even thought having a washer and a dryer or access to a laundromat was a blessing, but now I realize how I live my life is not normal to a lot of the world. And so I came back, and I, as a family, one night we met around the island in our kitchen, and I had a bunch of these picture folders. You probably saw the table when you came in this morning, with names and faces and ages of children that need us. And so we talked about this as a family. You know, parents, you try to have those teachable moments in life where you try and so we explained this to our kids, and we said, we want to do this. We need to sponsor a child. And it's $39 a month. And I remember saying to our kids, because oftentimes on Sunday, we do the worship in our kids' ministry back home, Pastor, and Sunday is one of those days where takeout is just a lot easier than cooking something. And so we typically go to Subway on a Sunday, and we said, okay, for the four of us, it's basically just a little under $39 to go to Subway. So we're going to have to take a step back at least once a month in order that we can sponsor a child. And so we talked about what that meant. And so I said to my daughter, Maria, who's sitting right down here, she's 12, I said, Maria, you pick a child for us to sponsor. And so a few minutes later, she came up with the picture, and she picked us a little girl whose name was Maria. I said, I can understand. My other Maria. And so we made a commitment on that night, and we filled out the sponsorship form. Fast forward to 2013, and I get to go back to Ecuador, and I meet my other Maria. And so I have time with her mom and her baby sister and I get to meet my other Maria. That's her shaking my hand there now, and that's her mom sitting to the right of her, or to her left, with her baby sister. And we're just doing some introductions, and that's my sister sponsors that little girl that's shaking my hand now. And I'm telling you, I'm wanting to do that ugly cry again because I'm overwhelmed. It's my other Maria. But here's what happened. I said, because I recognize this is an awkward moment. Can you imagine somebody from a different country come in and meeting my child, and who are you? And we had gifts for her, and stickers, and hair clips, and bows, and so I said to her mom, I said, what does it mean to you to know that your child, that Maria, has a sponsor? And through the translator, she said to me, she said, I know that if she gets sick, I can bring her here. I lost it. I lost it because that previous winter, this was in August, that previous winter, my Maria had suffered, was it 6 or 7 cases of strep throat. Now, moms and dads, you know what that means, right? It feels like razor blades. Mom, Dad. You go to the clinic, you wait at the clinic, and I know we grumble through it because we sit there for 2 hours, and we don't like that, and we all want to vent about our healthcare system, but nonetheless, we will see a doctor. The doctor would swipe her throat. Yes, it's strep throat. What happens then? You go downstairs to Lawton's, you wait for another 30 minutes, parents, you know the routine, right? And what happens? In 2 or 3 days, they start to feel better. It was inconvenient, it was painful, I didn't like it, but we had things we could do to see my Maria feel better. But now I'm struck with the reality that my other Maria, because I get to sponsor her, because we as a family said, you know what? We can do with a little bit less to see my other Maria taken care of, life in all of its fullness. And I'm telling you, that wrecked me. You know, I thought about this as we were getting ready for this morning. I thought, you know, back in Matthew 14, how many of you know Jesus had the power to go bam, and there'd be fish and chips for everybody? I mean, Jesus would get down in the mud and go spit in the mud, put it on their eyes, he could see. So it wouldn't be a stretch to think he could make food appear and just instantly provide. But instead, he invited the disciples to be a part of this. He partnered with his people. He invited them to participate in his plan, to experience the joy of giving what they had and watching what was possible. You know, this morning, there is that multitude, just like Jesus encountered. In a community called Morne Pele on the coast of Haiti, there's a multitude that includes a mom and a dad and a child, a family, a community, thousands of miles south of here, beyond these borders, over there, out of sight, but important to God. Did you know Haiti is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere? It's desperate. But with the help of World Vision, and more importantly, with the help of Canadians and generous churches such as yours, God is inviting us this morning to say, hey, you know what? Oromocto Baptist, how about you bring what you have? Whatever that looks like. Maybe as a businessman or a businesswoman, maybe part of your business. Maybe as a family, like my family, you could meet us at the table today and say, who is my other Maria? Where you can experience the joy of partnering with the Lord in ministry to the least of these. What a privilege. I love the fact that God just doesn't want to do what he can do without us. He invites us into that partnership. And so I want to say, Pastor, thank you this morning for allowing your church and for leading the charge, and for Matt to own this and really lead by example and say, hey, you know what, as a young man, I'm going to sponsor this young lady and see change come to her life. Change in so many different ways. I leave you with this one last verse. In 1 John 3:18, it says, let's not just talk about love, but let's act on our love. And so my challenge to you this morning, and my encouragement to you, and my invitation to you is, and Pastor Perry is going to come and close us out, but I'm going to make my way to the table that's in the foyer, and we have dozens of children this morning that are living in this one community. And this is the global partnership between Oromocto Baptist and Morne Pele, the community in Haiti. All of the children are living in the same community. And this morning, who is your Maria? What can you bring? Put it in the hand of God and say, you know what, it's $39 a month. I was in Prince Edward Island in February, and a young couple in their 30s sponsored 10 children at one night. They just said, for me and my family, that's not possible. For them it was, and so they did it. They brought what they have. It's the widow's mite. It's not about the amount. It's about the heart to say, you know what, Jesus, it's for the least of these. Who is my Maria? Would you come? Would you join us at the table? Come, have a look, the different birthdays, different ages, boys and girls, and let's together impact an entire community in Jesus' name. God bless you. Thank you so much, Pastor.
Will you stand with us as we close with trust and obey?